Now on with the review.
Let's start with some backstory, hey?
Good idea. Sonic Team are a game developer branch, otherwise known as Sega Development Group, AM8.
Now, back in 1990, the head of Sega back then, Hideki Sato, put out a request to the staff of Sega to make a game that would not only sell 1 million copies, but also take on the likes of Mario.
Now, a big order to say the least, but Shinobu Toyoda and his 15-man team, which included the likes of Yuji Naka, fresh from the development of the Phantasy Star 1 and 2 games, well, they came through, and as I say, the rest is history.
After the release of Sonic and its huge success, Yuji Naka threatened to leave Sega because he wasn't happy with the company's traditional pay policies. But he was eventually talked into going over to America to work in the more free environment of Sega's Technical Institute. With a lot of the other members from Sonic Team following Naka over to America, the team was somewhat split for some time. Yuji Naka spent his time in America overseeing the production of Sonic 2, 3 and Sonic & Knuckles.
Sonic Team really had it going on at this time. After returning back from America, Yuji Naka went back to Japan and took the position of producer. So in turn, Sonic Team was once again firmly established and ready to move outside of the likes of Sonic. Beginning with Nights into Dreams, which we ended last season on, it didn't exactly have the commercial success that Sonic did, especially when a lot of people were looking at it as Sega's answer to Mario 64. But it was still a critical success, and for me was the game that truly got me hooked on the Saturn.
Which brings us to Burning Ranges. As we mentioned earlier on, there are some games you just have to own, and, well, Burning Ranges is definitely one of those games. Released right at the end of Saturn's life, this game was able to take all the tricks learnt in the trade and produce a game that would finally show that the Saturn was able to really compete. If all, but too late.
Welcome to the future. A world of little danger and harm. A veritable nirvana. A safety and security and little to threaten the everyday lives of those sheltered citizens. Except, of course, fire.
Now somehow, ladies and gentlemen, the bright sparks, get it? Bright sparks? Residing in our future utopias still manage to leave on a pot too long or are smoking in bed.
And you're probably going to catch kids, lighting matches. But how about that giant flower that authorities had to battle last year that was spewing fire?
Now where were we? Oh yes, the future. The Burning Rangers are an elite group of firefighters who have been formed to help cope with such emergencies. The core members of the team are Chris Parton, Big Landman, and Lead Phoenix, aka Reed, as well as 2 new recruits, Xiao Amabane and a woman called Tillis.
Now this is where things go a bit pear-shaped.
Whilst on a routine mission, the discovery of a transmitting device which is calling an unidentifiable spacecraft to Earth throws the team into action. The problem is the craft is covered by a massive layer of space junk. Should it hit the Earth,
the damage would be catastrophic.
Okay, I'm back. I'll take it from here, gentlemen. So in between battling snotty droids and extinguishing spot fires, the game heats up. Get it? Heats up. Oh, and that reminds me, now would be a good time to mention the crystals. What is it with Sega games and crystals, by the way? Oh, it gets better. Get this, they're called Mazda crystals. Sort of sounds like something one does before he gets up in the morning.
collecting the crystals will enable you to teleport survivors. Now the crystals are obtained by putting out fires. You have the choice between a normal shot or a charge shot to put out these fires. But know that if you use the charge shot, you won't be rewarded with any crystals. Not only do you use the crystals to rescue survivors, but they're also tallied to your overall score.
Also laying around are red and green gems, which are worth varying amounts of crystals. So you get the idea. Different crystals have different values and can be found in differing locations throughout the levels.
It's important to remember the higher the percentage on your danger limit, the longer the flames last. And to add insult to injury, the limit doesn't go down past the 20% increment, which overall will lower your grade mission.
Finally, we'll finish up by mentioning how cool the last two stages are. With the changes in both underwater swimming and zero gravity floating, it really puts a different edge on the game, and it keeps it interesting through its long, twisted, confusing levels.
gets up my nose? The smug generation. They are so busy hanging on us retro gamers, forgetting into things like 10, 15-year-old games, 20-year-old games like Sega and Atari, thinking we're a bit behind the times and we're stuck in the bloody hippie era. You morons. If it wasn't for us and our retro games, you wouldn't have your Xbox 360 and your goddamn PlayStation. If it wasn't for people like Bushnell coming up with an idea in a marketplace that didn't exist in the first place, you wouldn't have your World of Warcraft and your Fallout 3 and your bloody Halo. For Christ's sakes, guys, why don't you appreciate a little bit of true ingenuity for what it's really worth? These people are amazing. I read some of your blogs, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. When was the last time you did any research and found out what these people really did? You morons! Absolute lot of yous. Read this one review. I won't name names. I won't point fingers at anyone. But I read this review from a younger gamer who was getting stuck into retro games and old-style consoles, like the old Ataris, for example, the original Segas, like the Mega Drives, the Mega CDs. Basically saying what a load of rubbish and how basic they were. Duh, you moron! Of course they were basic. They were made in the bloody 70s, you idiot. Unbelievable. What did you think they do? They just came out with an Xbox? They had a 3D engine? My God! Anyone would think you believed in I Dream of Genie. How do you think they got to that level? They started out with simple games like Pong, Pac-Man and Space Invaders. We thought that was the bee's knees. We'd never seen anything like it before, and then it just grows and grows and grows. But you know what? You never stop and look back and think, geez, if it wasn't for these guys coming up with this idea in the first place, I wouldn't have my console right now. I wouldn't have my fancy games. If anything, you little dick, you should get on your knees and Bushnell's because he deserves it. The man was a dead-set legend. You're a moron.
Really great game. You should definitely check this one out. We definitely recommend it, even though it's quite rare. If you're a Saturn collector, this is definitely what we consider a must-have. People have had a go at it in the past, had a bit of fun at the gameplay, but as far as Saturn game goes, being able to chug along those 3D graphics was very impressive, even though it was a little bit too late for its time.
Oh, look, let's be honest, like Chucky said, great game, fantastic replayability.
With the changing of the levels and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, look, the password function, you know, the ability to be able to play with CPU dedicated characters once you enter the passwords and the cheats.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'll be serious, guys. I really got into the 3D control. Absolutely got into the movement. Thought it was slick. Yeah, really happy with it.
Yeah, I was especially fond of just how many options there were for you once you really got into it. Sort of really go through and sort of lay out the game more the way you wanted than the way they were just giving it to you.
Yeah.
I love the anime intro as well. It was spectacular, and of course the music. Love the music.
Great soundtrack. Yeah.
Actually, an interesting point there is that this is one of the first games, if not the first game, to use voice navigation. The more you know.
So even though it was a very small game, so was Knights. So keeping that in mind, it wasn't all about how quickly you could finish the game. It was about how well you could play the levels in the collective whole. You know?
Yeah.
No, we changed that last bit. Alright.
If you all.
So even though there was only 4 levels, the bioplant engineering place, the aquarium, and the 0G level, overall it still was an excellent game. It wasn't necessarily, it didn't have to be long, you see. It wasn't about how quickly you could finish the game, but how well you can play the levels. Just like Knights. So, yeah, overall, thanks for watching. Happy New Year, guys!
Happy New Year!
See you next year on Season 3 of Strictly Sega.